Hey, hi everyone. Welcome to your show, Copy with Experts. This is your host, Ranmay here. And today we have Ben Johnston, who is the SEO Director at Harvest Digital with us. Hey, Ben, how's it going?
I'm good. Thanks, Ranmay. How are you?
All good. I can't really complain. So, Ben, thank you so much for taking out time to sit down and do this with us. Really appreciate it. And before we take any forward, let's get to know the human behind the mic. Talk us through your journey. How were you growing up as a child, and how are you in your college, and how did you land up in the digital marketing SEO space? And then also about a bit about your agency. What do you guys specialize in at Harvest Digital, and what are your core competencies? And we'll take it off from there.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So, uh, let's not worry about how I grew up as a child because
Okay.
it's a lot of work there.
Okay.
Essentially, I wound up in SEO in round about 2007. Back then, I firmly believe no one actually wound up in SEO on purpose in 2007.
We never really thought of in school or college that we're gonna get into SEO or digital marketing for that matter, right?
Yeah, exactly. There was
Nothing.
nothing.
Yeah.
Um,
True.
like I went to university. I did an English and a media degree, so I did two degrees at the same time, and I wound up working at a microbiology lab of all things. I
Okay.
was, um,
Interesting.
yeah, just doing lab tech work. I was keeping the machines working for the NHS, and it was a great job actually. But my heart was writing, and like a good friend of mine and we were running a club night, and we were doing music for the Colchester scene, and we started working with local bands and started creating websites or MySpace pages. That's how far back we're going. Um, and from there, people were asking us, "Can you get us higher in Google?" And I started looking it up and seeing if I could get people's MySpace pages higher in Google, and figuring it out from there. And then one day, my mum, she sent me a picture that she had seen in the local newspaper for an agency that was in Colchester, saying they're an SEO agency. They were looking for copywriters. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'll apply for that. And I applied for it. And because I already had a bit of knowledge in that space and a bit of technical skill, I'd always been building my own websites and so on and so forth. I got my first agency job around about 2007, 2008, and we went from there. Started out as a copywriter and always kept that mindset of creating content that people really want to use, and continued from there. And that's really been the thing that I've wanted to keep all the way through my entire career.
Lovely, lovely. And like you mentioned, you started your journey as a copywriter. So today's data-driven world, Ben, how do you see the role of content marketing evolving alongside SEO best practices?
I think the great thing about content is that it continues to evolve. And I mean, I retrained as a data analyst around about 10 years ago as well. You like the point of data is there to inform what you're working on. And the amount of information that we have now, if you can analyze that and leverage that for content, you're going to be way, way ahead of the curve. And
Yeah.
it's really been what I've been trying to work on for the last 10, 15 years, is really being able to write, but being able to bring the data that we have and being able to understand what people are looking at, what people are working with.
Mhm.
You can't beat it. If you're able to understand the data that's available to us from all of these different platforms and work that into your content, you're going to do some really great work. And that's really what I hope that I'm able to pass over to my teams.
Absolutely. And you have been in the space, like you said, in 2007. Since 2007, you have been there. For quite some time, you have seen enough summers and winters in the SEO space and all those Google algorithm updates, right? So which one do you feel was the most significant one, which had kind of had a long-lasting impact on the space?
Wow, that's a big question. I would say probably Panda,
Yeah.
actually. I think Penguin hit a certain grade of people very hard. But I think Panda was the one that made a lot of people sit up and take notice. And
True.
the fun thing that I'm seeing with a lot of people now with the helpful content update is that we're seeing almost a response or like the same thing again. People who have been blasting out content in the same way that we were doing back with Panda back in the day. I kind of feel like some of those similar behaviors are showing up again with the helpful content update. And I really like that people are having to redo the work and tidy up. And then we're seeing big uplifts again for those people who have done the cleanup work. And with the latest core update, it's quite interesting.
Absolutely. And then talking about content, what is your take on how AI or any tool, let's say ChatGPT, can be leveraged for content, how it should or should not be, rather?
I'm a huge fan of AI tools, but
Okay.
we've drawn kind of a line in the sand at Harvest. And basically the line is we don't use it to generate content, but we can use it to generate frameworks, and we can use it for research purposes. For example, I've recently built a tool for my team at Harvest called Strategizer and one called Summarizer. They're all built in R, hence why they've got R at the end of it. They are basically tools that you give them a keyword or you give them a URL, and they let you know what the intent of all of the ranking pages is, or give you a summary of those pages. And that really helps us make sure that we're aligning our content to what Google wants, and also gives us a summary of how our content is performing, or a keywords content, what people are targeting and what people are looking at. So I think AI is fantastic when it comes to building up a platform, building up a resource, helping you build up a brief for content writers. I personally don't think that using it to generate content is the right move.
Great, great. And looking back at your earliest SEO career, Ben, what are some of the biggest wins throughout the last 17 years that you have experienced? I mean, we can also take a reference of your client story or your favorite client story that way, whichever way you want to put it.
It's a long one. I've had some very, very happy wins over the years. I've had clients or client platforms that have just not been working. Something like let's go way back. We had a client that was a university, for example, and they had a form. And this kind of leads into CRO. They had a form, and you could buy your textbooks, and you could buy the things that you were selling at a university, even like pencils. They had a whole e-commerce site via that form, but they were asking for a landline number. I don't know about you, but when I was at university, I didn't have a landline.
So did I. I did not have it as well. Yeah.
So that was a huge dropout point. So we
Yeah.
tested it and we eliminated that landline number, and our e-commerce conversion rate went up by 142%. Yeah, there's been quite a few over the years. But yeah.
Lovely. Lovely. And talking about SEO, it is no more about, at least I would like to imagine it that way, that it is not so much anymore about clicks and those impressions. Like the client has gotten mature and educated as well. But talking about CRO, how do you ensure strategies that the CRO actually happens, ensuring websites not only attract those visitors and clicks, but also convert them? So how do you ensure that?
So we really like to think about the entire user journey. We don't just think about a lot of SEO and CRO offerings, which
Right.
is the landing page. We like to think about what happens before the landing page and also after. It's great that we can create landing pages and content that ranks, but what do we do before that? Like, how do we create trust and how do we create user intent before somebody actually lands on that page? So that comes down to creating content, creating ad copy, creating metadata that starts with that zero moment of truth. And then how do we follow that up with the landing page experience? And then how does that whole experience follow through to the checkout process or lead process or however it is? And then what do we do afterwards? So what do we do with a follow-up email if somebody maybe didn't convert, or even if they did, what do they get afterwards? And how do we keep people in that loop? So it's really about creating a whole holistic experience rather than just a lot of SEO in a lot of cases. Same with PPC and same with email. We put it in a box of, we got you to the landing page. What next? That's a you problem.
Yeah.
What I've always tried to do with my teams is build that whole holistic experience of how do we get people to the landing page? How do we start building that experience? And then how do we keep that experience all the way through? And then after they've purchased or after they've converted, how do we continue with that experience? So it really starts with that, what we call the zero moment of truth, which is like people see you in a search result, or they see you in an email, or they see you in a out of home ad or something like that, and all the way through to, okay, you've purchased. What does your final email look like?
Yeah. Great. And in talking about the overall user experience, how do you ensure that it is aligned, while obviously you're targeting your audience to make that sale happen, make those conversions, but at the same time, do you ensure that it is aligned to the brand's voice, and how do you position yourself as an organization in front of the eyes of your target audience as well?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. It very much depends to a certain degree. I honestly did promise myself I wasn't going to say it depends, but
Okay.
I failed completely there. It
No,
does generally depend very much on the client and the brand as to how they position themselves. But what we try to do is we try to make sure that, and again, ties back to custom software that we built, that links up the intent of a keyword to the intent of the landing page content. Yeah. And I find personally that works a lot better in terms of driving conversions, because, The great thing about CRO is small things can make a huge difference. Very similar to SEO, but as long as what you tell people aligns with what they're reading, so what they're searching for aligned with what you're serving them on the landing page, that works really well.
Lovely. Great, yeah, Ben. This has been a brilliant conversation. I'm sure our audience would love the insights which you have shared today. And for our audiences, if they want to reach out to you, Ben, how do they do that?
You can drop me a message on, that's a very good question. You've got to imagine I don't use Twitter anymore. You can check me out on ben-johnston.co.uk. There is a contact form on that site, or you can sign up to my email list, or you can check us out on .com, or you can drop me a line on LinkedIn, which is linkedin.com/Ben-Johnston-SEO.
Lovely. Great. Yeah. Once again, thank you so much, Ben, for taking out time to do this with us. Really appreciate it. Yeah. Cheers, man.
Thank you, mate.